Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of our Nadi Digital Economy in Malaysia, which simply means the pulse of Malaysia's digital economy. Again, we've got about probably 4 this week. We're going to try to squeeze in a 6th story maybe, but depending on us sticking within our 15-minute limit. And as you recall, we're trying to give you a sense of our analysis, our take of some of the key stories that happen in this week in Malaysia's digital economy, right? So with me, of course, is my colleague Dzof, and we're both going to take turns to talk about certain stories and we'll lead the way. And I'm going to kick off actually this week with what I thought was the most significant story, which was actually a story that Dzof covered. And it was on during Amazon Web Summit, Amazon Web Services, their annual summit. And of course, it was held virtually. And this was a session where the Chief Digital Officer of Petronas, Adrin Azli, was speaking and sharing about how COVID has accelerated the oil giants' embracing of digital. And what I find interesting here is that they want to actually allow everyone, to become a digital enabler, an innovator in digital, and he calls it like democratizing digital democracy. And they want to make sure everyone is engaged and feel that they have a part to play in the company becoming a much more agile and digital company. But besides that, another chief point he made, I thought interesting, was he says that, look, they want to try to get their 200 senior executives to fully buy into digital, to think digital, to act digital also. And his reason for emphasizing these 200 people is that the rank and file will obviously take their lead from the key leaders in the company also. And so the company wants their key 200 leaders to be fully embraced and imbued with digital. So I thought that was interesting. Well, a lot of people like to say digital now is such a big wave that you see the movement coming from bottom up. But here Petronas is doing it from that way, but they want the top also layer to be fully, bought into and to demonstrate and to exhibit that in everything they do in the organization. So Dzof, what did you think of that?
I mean, the thing that struck me is that I guess this is an example where if you have all the money that you have, what would you choose if you wanted to go digital? And certainly Petronas is not short of resources in that area. One thing that struck me was that they said that one of the reasons why it was easy for them to to pivot into this online working was because Petronas had already invested in things like the communications infrastructures, security, all these things which were already in place so that when they needed to go online, it was easy. And I suspect they are looking at this investment in training their staff as something similar, in that this is laying the groundwork so that it's something that they will reap benefit in the future. Even though I would say most Malaysian companies sometimes are a little bit reluctant to give training because they feel that the staff can move on to other companies. But I think Petronas are saying, well, if you train enough, it doesn't matter.
Such an outdated view, but you're right, it's still prevalent among even larger companies. So
I'm so sorry to hear that. That means you are just treading water. I mean, that's my simple take on it. The next story that Karam picked is that MDEC commissioned a study from IDC, and IDC said that the big data analytics market in Malaysia is set to grow to about $1.9 billion by 2025. My immediate flippant reply to this, Karam, is like, only 1.9 billion, not more, is it? But actually, when you look at the breakdown by IDC, they feel that the services sector will contribute 64% of the spending, and then the banking and telco sector will contribute nearly a third, which makes a lot of sense because the services sector is where you can immediately see the benefit of investing into big data. Whereas the banking and telco guys have always been a bit cutting edge anyway, so you would expect them to be.
No, when you talk about banking, this private sector, but just a quick segue, I was talking to, yesterday, in Malaysia, the government was making a decision whether to go into a full lockdown, not the entire country, but certain states. And the Prime Minister was in a virtual meeting with 200 business organizations, right, business groups. And one of them after that called me and said that, look, everybody literally said, do not go into full lockdown. It's going to damage the economy. And interesting enough, he said the Prime Minister was citing data because they use MySejahtera, we've got our own version of track and trace, right? And he's actually citing some data points to go a bit granular to explain to them that if we do go this way, the business sector has to be a lot more responsible with how you enforce SOPs. And I love that, because I think even now, everyone is realizing that data is such a great tool to give you a cloud, right? To give you, it's a strong mover of making decisions, right? So you don't have to go with gut feel anymore. So, and this MDEC study shows that, you're right, analytics is going to be big. It is already becoming big now, and I look forward to seeing how big it can grow. And I personally think that the market actually may be even bigger than this 4 years from now, Dzof.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because it's MDEC. Don't forget that late last year, MDEC also tried to kick off the Data Kita movement, right? Where it's their attempt to encourage industry and companies to invest into data analytics and big data. And what you are saying, that example that you're giving, is precisely the sort of thing that they're hoping companies would do, right? I know KPIs and now it's a slightly maligned term, like people, it's not trendy anymore. But the idea about KPIs, the idea about data, is that you are making business decisions based on evidence, right? Rather than just gut feel. So I think it's a good move going forward.
Totally. Now let's move on to the next story, and which is we're going to have two startup stories where they've raised funding, and we're highlighting iPrice Group. They raised 1.5 million from a Korean company with this very interesting and unforgettable name called Woo-Wah Brothers. And personally, I would have actually called them, if I was them, I would have called the group Woo-Woo Group. Or maybe the Wow Group.
I must confess, Karam, with a bit of embarrassment, that when I read the story, my first reaction was, I suppose I should go to the iPrice website and see what it looks like.
What it looks like? No, and I actually thought that the Wow, I looked at it and I thought it's Wow Group. I thought this is some dog, a dog company, right? A pet food company or whatever. No, it's actually a Korean company, and they're actually involved in delivering. They were in the food delivery business, right? They got cloud kitchens, delivery of groceries, and procurement and live streaming of commerce. Basically, they're serving the F&B industry. So, but anyway, they've invested 1.5 million. So the interesting thing is here, iPrice is actually one of the very few non-Malaysian based startups based in this country. And it's actually run by a couple of Czech entrepreneurs. And they are very happy being in Malaysia. They said Singapore totally doesn't make sense because of the price point. You get the same kind of quality of talent you need in Malaysia. And they've been here for like 6 years now easily. So they're working towards their C round. What is interesting is that this 1.5 million US is actually very small, and according to them, and they call this a strategic investment by Woo-Wah Brothers, who, by the way, have been bought over by a German-based company called Food Panda, right? No, Delivery Hero. So there's actually a German name now. Yeah, Delivery Hero. So Delivery Hero bought over Woo-Wah Brothers, and Woo-Wah Brothers now has got a stake in iPrice. And here's what's interesting. A Malaysian entrepreneur who had his company, who had a listed company, take a small stake in his company. And eventually, within a year and a half, the listed company bought out his company. He told me that, Karam, this 1.5 million US dollars is actually small for the stage of growth that iPrice in. He thinks that this is setting the stage for Woo-Wah Brothers to get to know iPrice better before they make an acquisition of the entire iPrice. So that could be one play here, which of course iPrice founders will not tell you. This is just based on an entrepreneur who had gone through this before with a strategic investor coming in. He said, Karam, this feels like they're setting up to do the same thing. So, 18 months or a year from now, I'll be proven right or wrong. So that's what's interesting about this story.
That certainly then is promising news then, if you're iPrice. Another company that's been around for a while in Malaysia and actually shown good growth is Babydash, right? So
yeah, and Babydash is Malaysian born, and actually Babydash is 10 years old in July. So they're close to their 10th anniversary. So this story is interesting because they are now also just like iPrice. They're raising $1 million ringgit, which is about 242,000 US dollars. They're saying this is an interim injection of funds while they try to raise a bigger amount. Actually, not while, they are in the process of raising a bigger round from a corporate entity. So that's kind of interesting play. But what I like is because I know Lavini Tiruchelvam personally, of course, professionally, not personally. And she was an entrepreneur before running a dance studio So this is a law graduate who ended up running a dance studio and then moved to launching Babydash, because she and a co-founder back in 2011 wanted to buy baby food, especially they wanted to buy diapers and they wanted to buy baby food online. They could not do it. And they said, why is that? And they decided to solve this pain point themselves. So that's the background story to Babydash starting out. And here we are today on the verge of them being on their 10th anniversary. They've done very well. They're hoping to double revenue with this round of funding coming in. And also they're already in Singapore now. They're hoping to use this 1 million ringgit to deepen their footprint into Singapore. And when they raise the proper round, corporate round, then they're going to go to some other countries in the region. But it's a very interesting company. Go and have a look at their website. And if you haven't done so, buy your baby food from them also, or your baby products from them. Dzof, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, what's interesting is that here's a well-established company that has a track record that has can show that it has potential to grow.
Totally.
And they're using ECF as a vehicle, not their sole vehicle, but
so she explained it to me. So yeah. So the reason, thanks for bringing that, Dzof. She said that, look, they last raised ECF in 2015. So they had a successful ECF round then. I don't know whether it's $1 million or $1.5 million ringgit. You can go to DNA's website. You can see the details there from a past story. But she says that, look, their customer base, of course, has grown. And what they do in this ECF round is a chance for their existing customer base and new partners to come in and get a stake in the company before they raise the next round and have a rocket, acceleration in their growth. So typically ECF, you find a lot of people who participate in a funding round based on ECF platform. They already know the company. They're probably customers or their suppliers, and they say, hey, I think this is a really promising business. I want to get a piece of them, before they're overpriced. And that's what she said also, before our valuation goes up, this is your last chance for anyone to come in. Friends, family, customers. So that's the reason why they are going with this, 1 million ringgit ECF round. So, okay, why don't we move on to the fact that, unless you add anything, we'll go on to the fact that the majority of
yeah, so the next story is about a Microsoft survey. And this is a survey they did worldwide in many countries, but Malaysia are obviously one of them. And the headline says 77% of Malaysian workers want flexible remote work options to remain. What about people like you and I, Karam, who have been flexible remote workers all this while, right?
Yeah, for journalism, journalism is different, right? Journalism has taken very easily to working from home, actually. But the number is quite high. I'm wondering if the survey says whether we are among the highest in the world to say that we prefer to work from home. Did they give a ranking of the 10 countries and where our 77%, right?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
So no, they didn't do it that way. You could, I suppose, do it by taking the reports from each individual country and manually lining them up. I didn't do that. I'm not that good a reporter, clearly. But I want to say that one thing about this that always piques my interest when it comes about remote working is that if done efficiently, it means that it doesn't matter where you are when you work, which means it doesn't matter who you work for to a certain degree, right? Because it's one thing living in Perlis and working for a KL-based company, but it could also easily be someone living in Hungary working for a company in Kuching, right? In theory, this is what the future can look like. And,
totally.
And go on.
No, there's so many data points here. One thing I found was that 62% of business leaders in Malaysia are considering redesigning the office space for hybrid work. So all those who are in the property industry, right, this is something that would definitely worry them, because this means that when you talk about redesigning, you also probably mean shrinking your office space, and maybe it could be by 20% or whatever. But I think a lot of companies are going to have a smaller footprint.
Yes, and I mean the report itself talks about having these hotspots in the office, right? These I guess something like casual meeting rooms where people can come in for the day and then go out again. Somebody else comes in later in the day. And the other statistic that caught my eye was that 47% of those surveyed say they are planning to move to a new location this year. Wow. And 45% of workers in Malaysia are likely consider leaving their employers this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a great time for change, which is, I guess, better for some people than others.
No, but I
hasten to
guess,
add.
but this also tell me, Zof, that this survey was done of knowledge workers. If you're a white collar worker, you can, and knowledge worker, you can say, I want to change jobs. If you're a blue collar worker, and I suspect this change, of course, this survey leaves out blue collar workers, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, but one more thing I was surprised about, Jess, is that the last point here, almost 70% of Gen Z are those in their 20s and mid 20s and below, saying that they are flat out merely surviving or struggling. They're flat out struggling. And I'm really amazed at that. And by the way, the survey describes them as 18 to 25. I don't understand why they say they're struggling or just merely surviving with this new mode of working.
My understanding is that they consider themselves at the bottom of the totem pole. So when it comes to doing online meetings, for example, they find it hard for their voice to be heard. It's difficult for them to network and interact. That is my take from it.
Fine.
But
okay,
anyway, that's, I think, the path.
Absolutely. And with that, we leave you with this second episode of Nadi Digital Economy Malaysia. We'll see you again next week. Have a good week ahead.
Thank you.